We begin tonight in Alberta, where there is frustration and fear after a record-setting weekend for COVID-19 infections. Over 6,000 new cases were reported over the last 3 days. Alberta still leads the country in active cases per capita, double the number being reported in hard-hit Ontario. Hospitals have not yet reached their breaking point yet, but with so many sick, it may just be a matter of time. Heather Yourex-West has our top story tonight.
In Alberta, the risk of COVID-19 infection has never been higher. And yet, on a weekend where the province posted a record number of new cases, hundreds of people gathered in central Alberta for a rodeo, with no masks in sight.
I do not think people are evil. I think that they are misguided. And that misguidedness is actually really damaging to the entire community, honestly.
The event comes just days after Alberta's premier promised to get tougher on those flouting public health restrictions. Alberta Health Services says it's considering legal options against the event's organizers.
The paramedic response unit.
Paramedic Nate Pike, who is also running for a seat on Calgary's City Council, says he encountered a large gathering over the weekend too. It was right outside the Emergency Medical Services headquarters. He says he struggled to control his anger as he approached the crowd.
And I just said, look, you guys, this is real. And when we come home after 12 hours or however long of trying to fight this thing, and we see a bunch of people having a party on our front doorstep, it hurts.
The fact is, the stakes in Alberta are higher than ever before. This week, Alberta Health Services met with staff to discuss its COVID-19 triage protocol, a guide for which patients would receive care in the event hospitals become overwhelmed. It's something Dr. Noel Gibney believes could happen in as little as 3 weeks' time.
Looking at modelling that to date has been remarkably accurate, we could hit that threshold anywhere from May 22nd onwards.
Still, Alberta's current level of restrictions are less than what was in effect during the height of the province's previous 2 waves. Patios remain open, malls, churches, and hair salons too. What is closing is the Alberta legislature, the province cancelling its spring sitting for at least 2 weeks to prevent, the government says, COVID-19's further spread. Heather Yourex-West, Global News, Calgary.
Some countries are beginning to get out of this pandemic because of an effective rollout of vaccines. The distribution of vaccines began last December. In under 5 months, Israel has managed to get at least 1 jab into 62% of its population. For the UK, it's 51%. Canada is now just over 33%. Even in the throes of a lockdown, there are signs in this country that vaccines could turn the tide in the weeks ahead. Eric Sorensen reports.
As long lines snake towards vaccination sites and Canadians, masked and desperate for shots, wait hours for pop-up clinics, it's hard to imagine when normal will return. But it is happening elsewhere. The masks came off in Israel this month, and nightlife has returned in the UK.
Honestly, it feels so good. It just feels like we're out of prison.
What the UK and Israel have in common is a high percentage of vaccinations.
There's no question that we're starting to get the pandemic really well under control at the moment.
Canada is just beginning to catch up. After a slow start, this country has overtaken most G20 nations in administering vaccines per capita. And led by Pfizer, Canada will double its weekly total to more than 2 million doses a week starting this month. So, when will it make a difference?
As you get more people immunized, it makes the disease less transmissible to others. So, as you get past 50, 60%, you see it happening in terms of less cases.
With an accelerated vaccine pace coming, half the population in Canada could get a first dose by late May. Public health officials see 75% as a threshold when a semblance of ordinary life could return.
The types of restrictions I think that could be looked at obviously would be maybe encouraging more sort of outdoor gatherings in terms of people being able to get together.
It will depend on other factors. COVID variant hotspots are less likely to open as early as other areas. And getting to 75% depends on Canadians continuing to march in for their shots, which they are doing. An Ipsos survey in November found barely half, 52% of Canadians, would take a vaccine as soon as they could without hesitation. A February survey saw the number rise to 66%. And in April, Ipsos found 75% would take a vaccine as soon as possible, no hesitation.
Vaccine enthusiasm is important. More people are talking about it. There's more opportunities to get vaccinated. With people enthusiastic to take the vaccines, that's only going to help.
With vaccines coming in bigger numbers and a high willingness to get a jab, Canada could be among the few countries that can lift restrictions and be well protected by sometime this summer. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.